And my guest this evening is the Deputy Secretary General of the SJB, and he's none other than Mr. Sujiva Senasinghe. Very good evening to you.
Good evening, Faraz.
What's the colour? I mean, I could have sworn that the SJB colour was not as what you're wearing on your shirt.
It is green and yellow. So I couldn't find.
So heart to heart, you guys are all really with the United National Party.
No, we are United National Party with the symbol telephone, and
Okay.
that's a given.
That's a sort of a temporary blip, is it?
Definitely.
All right. Now then, to get serious, what's on everyone's mind really is not the elections. It's this potential second wave of CV-19. What is your take on this? Who's at fault? Is it something that we just can't, the world can't cope with? Or is it something that, in particular, the Sri Lankan government can't cope with?
It's difficult. It's not easy.
Right.
For all the countries, it's not easy. But certain countries have taken precautions and they have taken the right decisions.
Right.
For Sri Lanka, they have not taken the right decisions. I'll point out two things to you. The first, when we got 2 or 3 patients, we made a speech, especially Sajith Premadas, Honorable Sajith Premadas made a speech in Parliament,
right.
And he said that he must bring a lockdown. And then the then Minister Pavitra Wanyaje, she was actually laughing at his speech and then made ridicule.
Right.
And then a couple of other ministers also I could remember in Parliament.
Right.
And they didn't take it seriously. And at the same time, the President also made a comment and said, 28 COVID patients is not a big deal for me. I am the one who has eradicated terrorism, so this is nothing for me. But the virus is totally different phenomenon to the terrorist problem. So from there, they made the mistake. And after that, I think they did a good job, curtailing it up to a certain extent. And then they said on the 19th that we are the only country which got rid of COVID-19. I could, and you could remember Pavitra Wanyaje made that statement. So they were gearing for the, and this is only for power, only for the greed for power. They wanted the election as soon as possible. So they were making a foundation so that they can pressurize.
They were giving some PR input into
They have been giving a PR input from the beginning, and they were projecting the army. They were not projecting the PHIs.
Okay.
They were not projecting the health workers. They were only projecting the army, navy, and so it's a mindset again that it's a war again. So like the people were.
To be fair, Sujiva, can you give them some credit
No,
in the sense that they didn't know how to deal with this thing?
Who didn't know?
The existing government didn't know how to deal.
Nobody knew exactly what it was. But we had a sort of
a premonition.
Premonition. No, earlier.
Or you had some real knowledge.
No, countries which has, because it's not for the first time that we have got. China. We saw what was happening in China.
You were basing it on something.
China and all the other countries which they were facing. So we knew that it's going to be dangerous. And how could we then make predictions?
So you all analyzed it.
Analyzed. It's a general knowledge that you have in any problem. Sometimes you're not ready for a problem, a pandemic but you can analyze the situation, and this is the country, and easily we can have the curfew in Sri Lanka, but other countries they can't have the curfew. Laws are not in such way in other countries like the US, England. They have human rights, all those stuff. They need to let you go for exercise. In Sri Lanka you can have the curfew. In India you can have the curfew. So these countries, and especially because of the climate also. In our region, India, we were not affected as much as the European countries. So that taking all that into consideration, after curtailing it, we could have taken it seriously, and they could have not gone for the election, and we gave them a early warning and saying that you should not go for election at this juncture, and you at least wait for another 1 month, because the sacrifice that we made going for a curfew for 3 months is enormous. Our country cannot bear something like that. Economically, socially,
especially when 62% of our population
is based on a daily wage. On a daily wage. So, and their electricity bills have gone up triple, and their water bill has gone up triple, and the telephone bills, and then the credit cards, and the rest of it, and then the cost of living also 25% it has gone up, and all the essential goods have gone up, and the people are struggling. So they could have foreseen what was coming, and we saw it. And then we said not to have the election and to have 1 month at least to give a break so that we get rid of corona and then concentrate on the election. So what the government did, the president and the prime minister was very keen, and they were greedy for power again. For that, this is the best opportunity they can get, because they were projecting the army. Army was the
Why
main
do you
focus.
say this is the best opportunity? They just won the presidential election. Quite comprehensive.
Yeah, so that is after the Saharan's attack, and then they were kind of getting very unpopular with the economic situation in the country, and they were struggling. And then the corona came, and then they projected the army, and then they brought this nationalism and the anti-Muslim sentiment again, the anti-Tamil sentiments again, and then they solidified their voter base again through the army. So they were always focusing on the army.
Do you think that this anti-minority sentiment, Muslim Tamil sentiment, do you think that's for real, or do you think that's another
That's a facade. That's a facade. That's because when they do
because
business,
the people are not. I don't believe that the people in Sri Lanka are communal-minded.
they are not.
racist
But they are not. But
by
if
and
but if the media and the government always keep hitting on it,
Yeah.
then you can actually sway about 20 to 15%
So
for a short time, not for a long time.
That.
You can influence up for a short time. So definitely after Saharan's attack, it was the case.
Don't you find that a bit ironic that
It is.
72 years later, after independence, that there are people in this country?
Not for us, not only in this country, every country, US, UK, populism, it has taken over the whole world.
Yeah.
So it's very easy to make it sensitive.
But that's shameful, isn't it?
It's shameful, but this is the general public all over the world. So this sort of government and rulers will always, because they've always come into power with this. So their
But
strongest point is
it
that.
tends to show also that they are rather shallow.
No. At the same time, leaders like Ranil Wickremesinghe are also giving to that. So they always, and we have lost
So
it
they
for
are
26
equally shallow.
Equally shallow. One give in to it, and one then make use of it. So there's no balance. So then they make a wave, and then they make sure that the voters get into their bandwagon, and they win. And coming back to the corona,
Yeah.
and what they did, they pressurized the health authorities and the election commission, and they pressurized them so much that it was actually like holding a gun to their head, saying that you have to have the elections.
Right.
And with that desperation, and we knew that was not the best decision that they took, and we gave red warnings so many times. Why don't you wait for another 1 month and then make sure that the coronavirus is over? But now it's out of control. The second wave is even bigger than the first wave.
Are you saying, without saying it, are you trying to say that now, better than ever before in our 72-year history of independence, now is the time to have a truly national government, an all-inclusive government?
Not a
Is that what
national,
you're saying?
not a national government. It's nationalism with a Sri Lankan theme. You have to be Sri Lankans, and always, like I was posed this question when I go to Harvard. Every year I go there, and the leaders and the professors, they ask me, how do you project yourself as Sri Lankans? Because the Indians have improved and they have done well as Indians, and the Americans have done well as Americans. And when are you going to project Sri Lanka as young leaders as Sri Lankans?
And what do you say to that?
So I said that this is the way, and the mindset must change, and then especially the young people, and they are normally very liberal, but now with the Facebook and with couple of medias and media institutions also kind of for their, I think, political gains, they try to always bring this anti-Muslim, anti-Tamil, anti-Christian, always divisive sort of approach, so that they can capture their base, the vote.
I notice, Sujiva, from the press that you all were proposing to give the sort of poor families 20,000 rupees a month.
Yeah, that's right, for 2 months.
For 2 months.
For 2 months,
For
and
60
I'll tell you,
days.
for 60 days, I'll tell you how we do it. Otherwise, if you don't give them a small
Tell me,
push.
I'm interested. I want to know how you're going to raise it.
So
How
600
many families?
20 lakh families at the beginning.
2 million.
2 million.
Okay.
So what you do is, like, we have lost 600 billion because of the VAT concession we have given.
Yeah.
26,000 pay VAT in Sri Lanka.
Yeah.
And out of that 26,000, below 300 million, we gave them exemption, and that is 3,000 people. So 3,000 companies then were given a concession. So the loss that the government made was 600 billion.
Okay.
So if you charge the VAT and if you keep the 600 billion, with I think if you give 20,000,
It's 40 billion with a B,
Yeah.
40 billion per month.
it's so 80 billion together.
80.
So this is nothing, because you have 600 billion out of that 80
So
billion.
you're going after those people?
Yeah,
and
not after. It's they were paying the VAT and others are paying the VAT. So you keep the VAT.
Right.
So these are people who make above 300 million. So
Yeah.
this is, they can afford to do that. So when you
So
charge,
in short, you're going to go back and say, listen, sorry, chum,
Yeah.
but we need that money anyway.
Definitely, because that is the change we brought, because our actually income, our tax income should be 20%.
So this 20,000 for 2 months.
Our tax income should be 20% compared to the GDP, but it's only 11%.
Right.
So that's how we were bridging the gap, bringing it to 20%. Without the 20%, you can't maintain, you can't do the infrastructure, you can't maintain schools, you can't maintain. So with general, you need that money. So when you have the 600 billion, 80 billion you pay them to give them a small push, the poor people, and then you
And
pay,
in 2 months' time, you sort it all out so that they don't need it?
they don't need it. That's what we have been going around, and they need a small push because they need to bridge that 3 months gap. And not only that, and if you give them the electricity bill, that is 20 billion on top of it, and if you give the water bill, it's 20 billion. So altogether 120 billion out of 600 billion. You have another 480 billion left.
Now, what are you going to do about business people who are getting this coronavirus loan there?
They have not got a loan. They have not.
They're proposing to give it. Now,
But
I was told yesterday that they can only use this money to pay salaries.
That's right.
But what about the people
No, Faraz,
who have gone and borrowed money at high interest?
Faraz, even that's a facade.
Yeah.
This government is totally a facade, and president is a failure, prime minister is a failure. I will say it very directly, because the reason is that you are not getting the loan. Even to pay the salaries, you're getting probably about 10%
Right.
of what you need to pay salaries, and then on top of it, the leases and then the loans, you have to pay them. Otherwise, you accumulate interest on that as well.
Yeah.
And then you have to pay, and if you don't pay, they seize your property and they seize your vehicles, and that's what they're going to do. After August 5th, the presidents have given a clear direction not to seize until 5th of August. And after that, they can go about their business. And
But
even
5th of August is only around the corner.
Yeah, so after elections, so they are saying until elections, please keep them happy. And after that, we'll attack. So they have to do that, because even the banks, they have said, add 8% to your interest rate. And top of it, for us, if you don't give the general public a breathing space, the poor, what I told you, they need a small push, small kick for them to push their way forward, so they can get ready for the next month.
Let's give you a breathing space and go for a short break. Don't go away. After all, this is Newsline Live. We'll be back after this short message.
Newsfirst, Newsline with Faraz, Shauketaly. London A-level students, complete your Edith Cowan University degree in 2 years in Sri Lanka and transfer for your masters to the top 100 universities in the world. ECU is ranked 9th in the world for quality education and 1st in Australia for starting salaries, with notable alumni such as Hugh Jackman, Dominic Parcell and Jai Courtney.
Authorities continue to trace contacts of the Kandakadu corona cluster. Movement in certain areas limited until PCR test results are out. President assures that the citizens will be protected from COVID-19 until the virus is eradicated from the world. Daiseri wants the election date to be advanced. SLFP takes legal action against Prasanna Ranatunga. Military drill at the Parliament complex.
London A-level students, complete your Edith Cowan University degree in 2 years in Sri Lanka and transfer for your masters to the top 100 universities in the world. ECU is ranked 9th in the world for quality education and 1st in Australia for starting salaries, with notable alumni such as Hugh Jackman, Dominic Parcell and Jai Courtney.
රාජ්‍ය සේවක ගැටලු නිරාකරණයට කැපවූ විසඳුම් දෙපාර්තමේන්තුවක්. දිනමු සමගී ජනබලවේගය දුරකථනය ලකුණ.
Playing this weekend on Yes 101. The Weekend Top 30 with Hollywood Hamilton.
What's up? It's Hollywood Hamilton. You know what we do around here. It's the fastest moving countdown in America. Some of the biggest names in the industry in the studio.
Hi, I'm Ariana Grande.
This is Drake.
This is Lady Gaga.
Backstage with us and on the WT30 hotline. I'll catch you this weekend for the Weekend Top 30.
The Weekend Top 30 with Hollywood Hamilton on Yes 101.
රට ජාතිය වෙනුවෙන් මුළු ජීවිතේම කැප කළ ඒ අභීත රණවිරුවා ඔබේ ප්‍රජාතන්ත්‍රවාදය රැක ගැනීම වෙනුවෙන් පාර්ලිමේන්තුවට යවමු. ෆිල්ඩ් මාර්ෂල් සරත් ෆොන්සේකා ඔබේ මනාපය අංක 18ට ගම්පහ දිස්ත්‍රික්කයෙන් සමගි ජන බලවේගය.
Newsfirst, Newsline with Faraz, Shauketaly.
And welcome back to Newsline Live. My guest this evening is Mr. Sujiva Senasinghe, the Deputy General Secretary of the SJB. Short, quick answers in the second half now.
Rapid fire.
Rapid fire. Fire. It's not Newsline, it's firing line. Right, so now then. The election date is fixed by the Elections Commissioner, not by the government.
No.
So what?
That's what I said. The government pressurized
So
the medical
pressurized.
authorities, and then they told them to give a green light, and then he was confused and he said, I didn't tell you to go ahead with the election. I said you can have preparation for the election.
Right.
So he was kind of confused, and then he was pushed so much, and then he gave the green light. So with the green light of the medical authorities, the election commission then have to take the next step. So what they did, and they've also pressurized.
This is for the economic gurus from the SJB. If the SJB comes into power, and the if is in capital letters, if
when
the
we come into
SJB
power.
comes into power, will they increase VAT and taxes?
No, not tax or VAT, but we'll continue the VAT which we brought earlier. So that
So
the 3,000 people who were
to a higher.
not higher, the same, it's the same.
Right.
Because same, but the 300
But the
people
net is wider.
exempted. No, 300 people exempted.
Right.
So that we 3,000. I'm sorry. 3,000. So we bring back the 3,000 people back into it.
Yeah.
So we will collect the same VAT that we collected earlier.
Right.
And then we'll come up to about, I think, 14%
How are you
compared
going
to
to
GDP.
jumpstart the economy?
Start manufacturing again, and you
How
can't
can you
be
start that
scared.
properly because they've got restrictions on imports?
That's the thing. So you release the restriction on import because you have to. Otherwise, the economy now 3 months we have been dragged along in this situation, and we have not had any production in the country. And if you continue it, if you are scared that the dollar will go up, and if you not bring the raw materials into the country, and if you stop manufacturing, imagine what would happen. You don't have manufacturing. Then you don't have jobs, then you don't have income, then the government doesn't take
It's a knock-on effect.
It's a knock-on effect, and it's a spiral effect actually.
Okay.
And the country will actually go into a recession, and that we won't be able to come back, because on top of it we have 12 trillion to pay, and the government has no idea how they are going to pay, because our expenditure is 2,900 billion and our income is going to be less than 1,000 billion this year. Already we have 1/4 of a year we have now not charged any taxes from the main companies. They have not paid, and they can't pay. So below 1,000 billion,
But the Parliament.
how do you expect them to move forward?
But I'm sorry to go back a little bit. But
Yes.
The Parliaments promised so much, and they're such hot shots.
No.
They're such hot shots that you were unable to prosecute anyone other than a couple of mundane matters on corruption.
Definitely. And
Is that a big failure?
huge failure, and I have had fights with Ranil Wickremesinghe and the rest of the crowd daily actually. Daily, basically I have been telling him, why the hell aren't you putting the special courts and moving forward? Actually it was me and Ajit Perra and I think 1 or 2 other guys, mainly 2 of us.
I think if it was
he pushed
not
it and
for-
pushed it so much, and we brought at least one. So Ranil Wickremesinghe, he had a plan, and the plan was not to prosecute but to kind of protect his friends, and so they would protect him.
In short, if you want to keep it short, to cut a deal.
I don't know what his idea was, but you can call even Ranil Wickremesinghe, even I can call him now and ask him whether Sujiva Senasinghe, whether I told him so many times, every meeting, why are you doing this, why aren't you doing this?
Right.
So then he never had answer, he said no, and he got all of a sudden frightened. And I remember there was allegation against Sagar Ratnakar that they were keeping Gamin Senrat at his house in Matara, which Ranil also was there. So all of a sudden I think President got his NIB some information that he was there. The President was really pissed. So then Maithripala Sirisena.
Right.
Then he all of a sudden he woke up, and then he brought Thalapathukorla and brought the files, and he called a working committee meeting also, and we knew that it has happened. And if you go through actually the the CID records and NIB reports, it will come out that that person was there. So that showed that they had a sort of agreement,
working
agreement together, and we were confused and we asked, what the hell is this? And you are all of a sudden bringing 120 files, and he was pushing Talata saying that you have to bring the files, and he was really desperate, and we could see the pressure that he was getting from the president. So this was the understanding they had, and what can we do if your leader is in agreement with the other side to protect them, and what can you do? And all what we could do is voice our opinion, and this is the best we could do, get rid of him this year.
You can tell that our listeners are very acutely understanding and analyzing the program as they go on, because one says, so in actual fact, reverting to the previous VAT rate means increasing the VAT.
Not the VAT rate, he's got it wrong.
Right.
The VAT rate we have not changed, they have not changed the VAT rate, because they give exemption exemption to a crowd which was paying below 300 million.
Okay.
So that is about 3,000 out of 26,000 pay VAT.
Right.
That threshold, that top level. So 3,000 people exempted. So we are going to bring back that 3,000 people, and the VAT, because without that VAT, with that VAT, and if we had actually done well last year, we would have got about 2,400 billion.
So what are the mega?
We fell short, and we came to 1,000 because of the 50-day debacle we had with Maithripala Sirisena and Mahinda Rajapaksa,
yes.
and then the Saharans attack, and then the tourism fell apart. So then our projected income was 2,500 billion.
This is when Mr. Wickramasinghe most famously or infamously, depending on your point of view, squatted at Temple Trees.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. I got that point. Now then, can you tell us how on earth are you going to increase FDI, which we need because we need the dollars?
Zero tolerance for corruption. You invite the investors to the country, and you give them, like Mr. Premadasa did, within 2-3 months you give them approvals to start their business in Sri Lanka. You create a conducive environment for them, and our ease of doing business ratings will go up, and you bring a system that corruption will be zero, and then they will have faith in the country, they will bring investments, and because the location is very vital still, because Mumbai is on this side from Kenya, and Australia is on this side, and Saudi Arabia is on this side, so our location is very important to the country, and it is going to be actually the biggest price for us also, not oil in the future, it's going to be location in the world. So with that location we can start production in Sri Lanka, but the manufacturing goods must come in, and then you must open the country.
How are we going to travel this apparently long journey from $4,000 per capita income to $12,000?
It's very easy. You start manufacturing in the country, you improve the tourism.
How can you manufacture when all these people, all the imports are being compromised?
So that is because we are talking about our government coming into power, and we will open because even the dollar goes to 210 to the 220, we must get our raw materials into the country. If you don't have manufacturing, then the whole economy crumbles. When you have manufacturing, that person, then 10 people make money in that company, then they go and spend, and then those shops make money, then they go and spend. So it's a cycle. Unless you bring money and then you start spending money in the country, you cannot keep the dollar amount down and then improve the economy at the same time. So manufacturing must happen, and 99 of our raw materials come from abroad. So if you don't bring them, now for us, nothing is being brought except essential items. So how can you run an economy with that sort of approach? And nothing is coming into the country, and then you have no manufacturing, you have no consumption. Then what about the people who are involved in imports? What about the people who are actually making some money out of the imports and then manufacturing out of imports? And what about those about 60-70% of our people who are involved in business are into imports?
In the last minute or two, I think this question is quite relevant. Sri Lankans have been virtual prisoners of recipients of freebies throughout the independence, and this has created a general society living on subsidies. What will the SJB do on a long-term basis to resolve this matter and to reduce the national debt burden?
We have already had a plan, and we were going to bring down the 12 trillion to 5 trillion within about 4 or 5 years, and that plan was good, even though Ranil Wickramasinghe and the government was in power, and certain things, fiscal policies were taken right direction. So we will continue that, and we will bring down the debt up to about 5 trillion. We are not going to take any more loans for mainly infrastructure development, and we will do it on BOT, build operation transfer, and we will attract. Sadeep Premadasa has a reputation that people will, and in my electorate he got 100,000 for the hospitals, and we gave medical equipment. So we have a natural knack that we can, if you are not corrupt, if you have a good faith also, people will help us, countries will help us, and with that approach we have open arms for the foreign investors who come into the country, can start manufacturing. But at the same time, little bit of social welfare also is needed, with those people, the poor people need to, and that money is not wasted. If you give them money for consumption, they will spend that money. So it's a automatic sort of a circle in the economy. It's not a waste. So at the same time, 20-30% when you give them a small support, only until they get up on their feet, and then you start manufacturing in the country, electronic goods, and then probably electric car in the country. And with that approach, and with tourism also, if you improve the infrastructure in the country, within about 3 years, you can finish the roads if you are not corrupt, if you are not making money, if your family is not involved in politics. So with that approach, we can actually make this Malaysia in 5 years, if the right people are, if the right leaders are in power.
Thank you very much, Sajeeva Sensinger, for being on Newsline Live. Last question, but one answer. How many seats for the SJB?
116.
116.
Yes.
That's positive. Sajeeva Sensinger, thank you very much for being on the program, and that's the way it was on Newsline Live. Take care, great evening ahead of you, and of course, God bless. No,